Okay, well, welcome. Hey, there we go. Welcome. Welcome to the Observer's election night headquarters. This is our first time doing this. We're excited. Um, but if you're looking for fancy graphics and experienced veteran broadcast reporters, I will tell you now, turn to CNN or Fox or somewhere else. This is the Observer doing something that we've never done before, and we're excited about doing it. So we thank the many people who signed up in advance to join us. The Observer will be looking at election night from a unique perspective this year. We've got some real special election events going on here in Sacramento, and we've got guaranteed to have the city's second African American mayor, either Dr. Flojan Flo Kofer or Assemblymember Kevin McCarty will be elected as Sacramento's next Black mayor, or next mayor, and of course, the second Black mayor in the city's history. We'll also be taking a look at some of the other races around the region, such as the West Sacramento mayor's race, which also has an African-American, Dante Early West, is running for a seat there as well, too. And we'll also be looking at a couple district races, particularly District 2 here in Sacramento. District 2, for those of you who don't know, is the historic neighborhood of North Sacramento and Del Paso Heights. And Roger Dickinson and Stephen Walton are running for that seat as well, too. And we've got a great show planned. We've got some guests that'll be joining us. We'll be looking at some of the state propositions. We'll be looking at, obviously, the local races. And then we will also be looking at our national race for president. There's another little race going on at the same time here. So we're excited about the evening, and we are very happy that you all are joining us. Now, I will say this much. You're watching us as you are, by it, whatever means you're watching us right now is great, but make sure and share with your friends. Let them know that they can watch this on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. We've got lots of different ways that you can watch this streaming event. So make sure you do a search for @SAC Observer and spread the word. Let folks know, because you're not going to find any other event or any other news organization that is covering Sacramento's Black community like the Observer. So we welcome you to our show. This is our humble studio here in North Sacramento, right on Del Paso Boulevard as well, too. And so we've got a guest that will be joining us a little bit later. But the first thing I'd like to, oh, there we go. There's a shot of our studio. And I want to also make sure that we go out to some of our reporters and let you see some of them as well, too. One last thing that I don't want to forget. We have been very fortunate with the development of the Observer's team over the last few years. So this type of event could not be done by accident. It is definitely with the hard work of a great Observer team. One person that you will not see on camera, or at least if you do see him on camera, we messed up. And that would be Mark Freeman, who really helps us with events such as this, live streams and our podcasts and things like that. So should be pretty cool to have this executed. So I want to make sure we thank Mark and his heavy lifting on trying to make this event work. We also, and some of these people you will see on screen, folks like Craig DeLuz and Christine Shelby will also be joining us. And then the host of a lot of reporters. Oh, there's Craig. And a host of other reporters that you'll see. There's Craig, there's Christine. I don't think they knew the camera was going to go on them, but hey, like I said, if you wanted fancy graphics and and all that stuff, tune in tune into another channel. Another person that's behind the scenes, Nikki Barra, he will be sharing, monitoring the chat, because let's be honest, sometimes you people need monitoring. I hate to say it, but sometimes you do. So we'll be monitoring the chat to make sure that everyone is on their best behavior. So anyway, I know I see teed up. I'd like to make sure that we go around to some of our spots. And I see one of our reporters, Robert Hansen. There we go. Robert Hansen. Look at that. Robert J. Hansen is one of the Observer's news reporters. He covers City Hall and homelessness. Hopefully he can hear us okay. Robert, give a thumbs up if you can hear us okay.
Yeah? Robert J. Hansen, coming to you from the cafeteria downtown Sacramento at the Kevin McCarty campaign bus party. It's almost free, I'd say a half-packed house, but we're looking forward to the results that are coming out soon. Larry, back to you.
Oh, look at that. Robert did that like a seasoned pro. I love it, Robert. We will be checking back with Robert probably in about 45 minutes or so as we begin to get more results. As we all know here in Sacramento, polls just closed at 8 o'clock. So we are one of the last places where you're going to get late night results. So there's obviously national results that are going on, and we're paying attention to that as well too. But we are hyper focused on Sacramento, and so Robert will be down at the Kevin McCarty race, checking in with us shortly. Let's see. And am I seeing another one? Let's see. Just go ahead and pop it on the screen. See who we've got. Okay, Louis Bryant III. Louis is at West Sacramento, I believe, correct? And I think, is that the Dante Early? I see the DR, and so I'm assuming that's doctor. Now we have two doctors that are running for mayors in Sacramento West Sac. So I don't think that's Dr. Flo. I think that's Dr. Dante. So Louis, I don't know if you can hear us, but if you can, he's spanning the room there in West Sacramento. I'm not exactly I don't remember what site. Do we remember what site he's at?
What's that?
I know he's in West Sacramento. That's understood. Yeah, so looks like Data Cafe. Thank you, Mark, with the insight analysis. So anyway, so Louis Bryant is checking in right now. Dante Early West is seated there, I think, in her red. I don't know if she can see us, but we'll give her a wave. And Dante, of course, there she is. She's waving. There we go. Dante's currently on the West Sacramento City Council, and she's also the CEO of United Way of the region. So she has a well-respected career and a great following, and we're looking forward to seeing what happens there in West Sacramento with her first mayoral bid there. So great. Okay. All right. Thank you, Louis. You gave us a little thumbs up. So we'll be popping back in there shortly. I think we can cut from Lewis's camera because there he goes. Show more of the family. But yeah, so we will be checking in more and more with the reporting crew that is around the city. I don't know. Is there anybody else there that's in the green room? No? Okay. All right. Oh, wait a minute. Is that Angelica? No? Okay. All right. Sounds good. Okay. So there's we could cut from Lewis's camera. There's also some great technology that the Observer has been able to invest in and be a part of. So this particular year, the election, being in the state capitol, paying attention to elections is something that we've always done, but we've always wanted to make sure that we could do it in a way that is really helpful to our audience. And so this year in particular, the Observer has some special new technology on the website. We're going to bring Christine Shelby back on. And Christine is our digital strategist. Christine, how you doing? Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you just fine.
All right, wonderful. So, Christine, I understand that the Observer has some new technology that is helping folks kind of see what's going on with special elections here in the region and ones that we want to pay attention to. Why don't you tell us and tell our viewers a little bit more about what we've got on sacobserver.com?
Of course. Hello, everyone. I'm going to share our screen. So if you go to our website and you hit Election Central, you will see that we have general election results live on our website. We are provided these results with a partnership with Decision Desk HQ, which is a newer company that is reporting election results from around the country. They are one of the largest companies that offers results for elections across the country. So we start out here on the screen with the 2024 presidential results. You will see this great graphic. You can click on states to get the statewide data, and you can see up there the race to 270 currently. So if you notice, the states that have been called are bold. States that have not been called yet are pixelated a little bit. So next up, we're going to learn more about how races get called and what times we should be expecting that. So
actually, before we go there, Christine,
yeah.
If you don't mind, let's tell our audience a little bit too about some of the other races that we have specifically on the website, because we've kind of tried to make it easier for our audience, right?
Correct. You should bookmark this page. If you are in the audience right now, look in the chat. You should get, there should be a link that you can easily hit if you would like to. Otherwise, go to our website on your own. We have put up already the Sacramento mayoral election, and that will be populated automatically. You don't have to refresh your page. These get updated automatically. The next up, we have the city council district, and then West Sacramento mayor as well. And if you keep scrolling, there's other local races listed. And we really do hope that you use our website so that you don't have to doom scroll for the rest of the night. You can just stay here, one place to get your updates about the election.
Great. I love this. I think, oftentimes, I mean, for those, I'm assuming the folks that are watching this are a little bit politically engaged and want to find out what's going on. And so the idea that we have it all in one place sounds good. We've got not only those local races, we also have the state propositions as well on the site. As well as some of the other congressional races as well, too, correct?
Correct. We do have the congressional races.
Great. Okay.
Listed here.
All right. There you go. I love it. Technology is a wonderful thing, and we're trying to use it in a positive way, so I love it. That's great. That tells us exactly what we have a little line there that said what races to look out for, right? In those congressional races.
Yes, this is a universal product, but we made it easy by listing the races that are local to us. So you can easily use the drop downs to get to your districts, your areas, and so on and so forth.
Great. Well, I appreciate that so much, Christine. Now, throughout the evening, Christine is going to be monitoring the website and checking in with us as results start to trickle in. As we know, this is California. The polls just closed, and it's going to take a little while for some of the numbers to roll in. And so there's a lot of reasons as to why that has happened. So we'll make sure and say bye to Christine because we'll see her a little bit later in the show. She'll be popping back in. But when we start talking about particularly the vote count, and the sometimes the delay that we see and we hear related to the election. California is usually on the forefront of making a lot of really good decisions, particularly related to voting integrity, making sure that everybody's vote is counted. And so we want to bring Craig DeLuz in because Craig is going to be sharing some information with us about the voting process and how that works. So Craig DeLuz, Craig is our director of digital media. I stumbled over that, Craig, because Craig has just had a lot of hats, and so it's hard for me to keep up. But Craig, over the last few years, we can remove the unless that can get smaller. Over the last few election cycles, we have watched what seems like the time in which we can call races take a little longer. I mean, I recall, being a younger person paying attention to election night, and sometimes you say, oh, the mayor's decided, or this city council race is called. But as we've gotten older, as I've gotten older, and the nation and state has matured, that process has changed over the years. Tell us a little bit from your experience and from what you've been researching for us about a little bit the changes related to that.
I appreciate that kind of lead in. It's funny, and like you, those of us who are probably a little bit more thinner and grayer of the hair, we remember when you'd go to election parties or something like that, and you would find out at least sometime that night, or at least you have a pretty good idea of the outcome of an election on election night. And a couple of things have happened that have kind of changed that. And it's moving us in a couple of different directions. One of the things is the push to make it easier for people to vote, easier for people to register, easier for people to vote, and because of that particular expansion, there's also been this increased encouragement, or at least focusing on the idea of election integrity, making sure that not only are people able to vote, but only people who are legally able to vote can vote, and making sure that they're not voting more than once. And then we've had the advent of technology, which one would think with all this new technology that it would be significantly easier for us to be able to participate, or at least to not just participate in the voting process, but to be able to tell, when the election is over. Well, a lot of that has to do with when people choose to vote, whether or not they're voting by mail or absentee, as we call it in California, or whether or not they're voting in person. One of the things that's changed significantly, and this was as a result of COVID, of COVID-19 and the COVID-19 pandemic, is the fact that more people now are voting by mail. This right here is brought to you. This is actually put together by MIT, and what they're talking about here is that they're focusing on. If you look here, the red line is is how people used to vote. People used to vote in person, and you notice there was always a steady decline of people who were voting in person. And then you had there in the blue line, those are people who voted by mail. Now, you notice something very significant between 2018 and 2020. The number of people voting by mail went way up, and the number of people voting via in person on election day went way down. Now, that line underneath, that's people voting early in the United States. Now, that wasn't a thing for the longest time. In other words, for the longest time, you only really voted early in person if you knew you weren't going to be available on election day, but you had to go down to the voter registrar's office and vote and vote early. Well, now many states actually have early voting, I believe as early as 45 days early, as early as 45 days early in some states. Now, the interesting thing about that is that when you take a look at what states are taking the longest, right? What states are taking the longest in terms of being able to, what states are taking the longest in terms of being able to give you results If you go down here, you'll notice, so these are the states here. If you look at the states in orange, which are mostly West Coast states, these are all mail-in ballot states. California was one of the first to go all mail-in ballot. But you have all of these Western states. You have Nevada, you have Oregon, you have Washington, you have Utah, and you have Colorado. All of these all of these are mail-in ballot states. And you have one more over here, Vermont. And then these blue states right here, the powder blue, these mean you can vote early, but you can get an absentee ballot, but you have to have an excuse. Are you overseas? Are you planning to be out of the country? Are you planning to be out of the state and not going to be available? In other words, you have to request a ballot. Now, these other states, the red states, like Montana, North Dakota, Nebraska, it's not automatically vote by mail. So you can get an absentee ballot, but in order to get one, you have to actually request it, but you don't really need an excuse. Now, here's the reason why that is so interesting is because what happens in this process, in order to protect the integrity of the vote, there's a process in many states that you have to go through. And that process includes things like, first thing you have to do is you have to obviously get it in the mail. The next thing that you have to do is they have to verify that it's signed and that it's dated. If it's not signed and it's dated, that's a problem. If the envelope is signed and dated, well, then you open it and then you verify that the envelope matches the actual ballot. Now, if you consider the technology, when you go to vote, you think about it, you go there, you give them your name, they hand you a ballot, you go, or they hand you a ballot, you go in, you press the buttons, boom, you're in, your vote is now counted. So what happens is that it takes a lot longer, that verification process adds a lot of time to how long it takes. Now, here's the other thing that adds time. In many states, like California, they're not even allowed to start counting those ballots until the polls close. And in some states, they're not even allowed to start counting those ballots until after the day of ballots are counted. So as a result of that, it can then take weeks. Now, you add to that the closeness of the elections. And we saw the 2020, the election was very, very close. This election is likely, at least in terms of the popular vote in each state, is likely to be even closer. So it could wind up taking us even longer to know who won. So I think the thing that I want to point out with this is the reason why it takes longer is because, number one, we're making it easier for people to vote. But number two, we're also trying to make sure that we're protecting the integrity of the vote, making sure that the people who are voting are those who are supposed to be voting.
Yep. All right. Well, it's taking longer, but we think the process is better. It seems like every year we have more and more people that are voting and more full results. So it takes a little longer. Sacramento is no exception. Obviously, we went through this very seriously during the primary because it literally took, I think, about 4 weeks for the mayor's race to be determined who were going to be the top two candidates from that race. So it may take a few days for us to find out who is president, who is mayor, which propositions win or lose. But we think that this process definitely is really important for, we use the words voter integrity, but just to make sure that everyone is counted. So, Craig, thanks so much for sharing all of that information. And we look forward to finding out what happens tonight and the rest of the weeks and the days ahead. Sounds good. All right. Well, we are going to continue with the show. We are going to bring in a special guest from California Black Media. So we're going to dive into some of the state propositions. There's Joe Bowers. Look at Joe. Joe, you look good. It's good to see you.
Good evening. How are you doing?
Good evening. I'm doing well. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can. Can you hear me?
We can hear you just fine. We can hear you just fine. Well, sounds good. So we're going to talk a little bit about some of the state propositions with you. You know, Joe is an experienced journalist who's been working with California Black Media. Joe, tell us just a little bit about your background, just for a quick second to tell our audience, and then we'll start to dive a little bit into the propositions.
Okay. Well, my background is really, I started off as an engineer. Did that for a few years and went into business and retired after that and became a education advocate. My wife was very involved in education, and our school district went into receivership, Inglewood Unified. And it was through those activities that I met up with California Black Media because we were trying to get attention to what was going on in our district.
Sure.
And through the op-eds that I wrote, I was invited to join, and I decided to take advantage of it. And I've been working with them for the last few years.
Sounds great. Well, of course, California Black Media is one of the media partners of the Sacramento Observer. So you'll oftentimes see Joe's bylines on stories that are published both on sacobserver.com or in the newspaper as well, too. But his work also goes up and down the state of California. And Joe has been laser focused in on some of the state propositions. If you filled out your ballot, which I'm hoping and praying that every person that is watching this did, you would know that you had 10 state propositions on the ballot this year, which is almost becoming a norm of having at least almost double-digit state propositions every year. So we encourage those that are paying attention to us to continue to read The Observer, follow us, and follow Joe's reporting on state propositions because it's a lot to digest. So, Joe, I'm going to run through them real quickly, and then I'm going to ask you a few questions real quick.
Okay.
So, of course, we had Proposition 2, which was school and college facilities, a $10 million bond. Proposition 3, which was same-sex marriage constitutional amendment. Proposition 4, which was climate and natural resources, also a $10 million bond. Proposition 5, which was lower voter approval threshold for local bonds. Proposition 6, which was a ban on involuntary servitude for prisoners. Proposition 32 was a minimum wage increase. Prop 33 was local rent control expansion. Proposition 34, healthcare provider spending requirements. Prop 35, permanent Medi-Cal funding. And Prop 36, increase penalties for certain crimes. That's a mouthful. So, Joe, let's jump into a couple of them, if you don't mind, that we can talk with. So let's talk about Prop 2, which could bring the $10 million for school and college facilities. How will this impact African-American schools or schools with African-American students and African-American communities?
Well, right now, 38% of students in California go to schools that don't even meet basic safety standards. Many of these schools are in Black communities. They have crumbling buildings, broken heating and cooling systems, and other issues that make it hard to learn. These conditions have a real impact on attendance and academic performance. If Prop 2 passes, it could fund critical repairs and upgrades, making these schools safer and better places to learn. I mean, critics are concerned about the debt that this bond will add to California's budget. And there's also a worry about how fairly the money will be distributed. The way it's set up, wealthier districts could end up getting more of the funds because the state uses a first come, first served system. Low income districts where Black students need the help might have a tougher time getting the money. But there are provisions in the proposition to try to address this. But right now it's a point of contention. So a yes vote brings in much needed funds for repairs and upgrades to school districts. A no vote means school districts will have to find their own local solutions.
Gotcha. All right. Well, that's insightful. Of course, the Observer before the election did recommendations. Hopefully folks saw some of our recommendations. Now it's too late. So I hope you got to the recommendations before, folks. But all right, well, thanks for the heads up on Prop 2. Now let's go down the ballot, down to Proposition 5, which would lower the voter approval threshold for local housing bonds up to 55%. How would that benefit or harm Black communities, particularly in California? We have such a housing crisis, and particularly for those in underserved communities. Joe, tell us a little bit about how Prop 5 might work.
Well, lowering the approval threshold could be a game changer for affordable housing in Black communities. You know, advocates argue it'll allow local governments to fund housing projects faster and more efficiently. And as you mentioned, given the housing crisis, this can mean more development and infrastructure to support our neighborhoods. On the flip side, there are concerns about financial impact. More bonds could lead to higher property taxes, and it's a serious issue for Black owners who might be already struggling. There's also a question about accountability. You know, some people worry that if it's too easy to pass these bonds, we might be overspending without enough oversight. So a yes vote makes it easier to approve housing projects. A no vote means the higher 2/3 voting requirement remains in place.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, one of the hot ones within our community is Proposition 6 also, which seeks to end involuntary labor for incarcerated individuals. In some circles, the term slavery has been thrown around as being part of the language as well too. So why is this particularly important for Blacks here in California, and what should we be watching for?
Great question, Larry. This proposition is deeply tied to civil rights. The Legislative Black Caucus has made it a priority because Black people are disproportionately impacted by forced prison labor, a practice that many say is a modern day extension of slavery. Actually, slavery is prohibited in the state constitution. Involuntary servitude is also prohibited, except the punished crime. So if this proposition passes, prison work would become voluntary, and inmates who choose to work could even see their sentences reduced. Now, some critics are worried about how it might affect prison operations and budgets, but it's important to note that the proposition doesn't require inmates to be paid the minimum wage. The Department of Corrections would still have control over wages. So a yes vote makes prison work voluntary. A no vote keeps the current system where work would be mandatory.
Right. Gotcha. So it's well, I mean, like I said, we've already done our endorsements, and to me, it's part of the human existence is really important, and we want to make sure that even if you're incarcerated, that you're treated like a human being. So we want to make sure that we pay attention to Proposition 6. Okay.
Yeah, another point about Proposition 6 is that it was part of the list of legislation that the Black Caucus included to deal with the reparations task force recommendations. Right. So it's part of that.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, raising the minimum wage to $18 is Proposition 32. It's a big proposal. How would this impact Black workers in California?
Well, for a lot of Black workers in low-wage jobs, this increase could mean a real improvement in their quality of life. Sure. Supporters say it'll make it easier for families to afford essentials like rent, food, and healthcare without having to scrape by. You could argue that Prop 32 is about financial stability and basic dignity. Opponents, including some small business owners, argue that they might have to cut jobs or reduce hours to manage the increased labor costs. But even with the raise, $18 an hour isn't exactly a living wage in California.
Right.
The MIT living wage calculator says that the average living wage is closer to $27 an hour. So while it's a step forward, it's not a complete solution. Plus, higher wages could drive up prices for everyday items, which might cancel out some of the benefits. So in this case, a yes vote raises the wage, a no vote keeps it at $16.
Gotcha. And of course, California's minimum wage is about more than double the national minimum wage, isn't it? So
yes, yes. And also, there are different cities or different parts of the state that actually are paying more than the minimum wage already. And plus, there was a bill passed last year that specifically increased the minimum wage for food service workers $20 an hour.
Mm-hmm. Gotcha. All right. Last but not least, the one that we will talk about here is increasing penalties for theft and drug crimes. That's been a big issue, it seems like, since COVID. Proposition 36 could lead to more incarcerations. How could this impact the Black community, and who are already that we're already overrepresented in the criminal justice system? Tell us a little bit about what you've seen with Prop 36.
Well, this is the one that's gotten a lot of attention and it's really been controversial. Prop 36 would bring back harsher penalties for certain drug and theft crimes, which means more people can end up in prison. It's a partial rollback of Prop 47, which reduced some property and drug crimes and changed them from felonies to misdemeanors. Mm-hmm. Now, critics argue that rolling back these changes would disproportionately impact Black communities, leading to more people being incarcerated and all the negative consequences that come with it, like family separation and economic instability. So supporters of Prop 36 say it's necessary to address rising crime and keeping our communities safe. But opponents say that there's no solid evidence that harsher penalties actually reduce crime. Right. They believe in investing in prevention and rehabilitation as the better strategy. So yes on this prop means stricter penalties. A no vote keeps the current approach.
Gotcha. All right. Well, we will be paying attention to the results of all of these. Joe, I really appreciate you taking a few minutes on a busy election night. I'm sure you got other things that you could be doing tonight. But, I really appreciate you spending some time and sharing some information with our audience about obviously all these propositions. And we're looking to pay attention to see what the results are. So thank you so much.
My pleasure, Larry.
All right. Good seeing you. Again, Joe Bowers with California Black Media. Oftentimes, again, Joe contributes for the Sacramento Observer as well, too, with our partnership with California Black Media. We're going to go to someone else in a second, but before we go to there, I want to also make sure that, I do this. Take this moment just to do a public service announcement. The work that the Observer does doesn't happen by itself. So we want to make sure that we encourage our viewers, our listeners, our readers, our audience to make sure and continue to support us. So whether you are sign up for our e-newsletter, which we deliver to every day during the weekday. You can get that delivered to your inbox, or you can subscribe to the newspaper itself, as there's a graphic that's up on the screen with the QR code there as well, too. Or you can go onto our website to sign in and subscribe to the Observer to get it delivered to your home each and every week. Or you can also support us with a contribution. We are not a nonprofit, and so we don't have a tax deductible it's not a tax deductible donation, but supporting our reporters and our photographers and our staff is really important as well too. So we are coming up. This is November, so believe it or not, this is our birthday month for the Observer as well too. Thanksgiving weekend is always when we celebrate the Observer's anniversary, which would be 62 years in this year. So we hope that folks will continue to support the work that we're doing during this time. It's as you may or may not know, over the last several years in particular, literally hundreds of newspapers have gone out of business and thousands of journalists have lost their jobs. Whereas the story for the Observer is a little bit different. We've been growing our capacity and growing our team, looking to add new people next year to continue to do substantial and important reporting for our community, unapologetically for the African American community. So we hope that you all will continue to support the work that we're doing. Now, with that, I'd like to go to our managing editor, Angelica Obioha. And I think there's Angelica. Angelica, can you hear me okay? No?
Hi, Larry. So
Oh, you
I
can
am
hear me.
over at the Sacramento Democrats Election Watch Party, happening here at the Oak Park Brewing Company. Energy levels remain high as supporters eagerly await result updates in tonight's races. People are gathered here, ready to celebrate or reflect, depending on what those numbers show as they continue to trickle in.
Gotcha. Angelica, are you ready to interview anybody yet or no? Just to check in?
Not
yet?
quite. But
Okay,
in a
all
little
right.
bit we should be.
Okay, that's fine. So we'll look forward to you checking back in with us to make sure that we can find out how folks are feeling down there at the Democratic headquarters party. And remind us again, you're at Oak Park Brewery?
Turn it up. I can't hear you.
Oh, can't hear. I think you're at Oak Park Brewery, correct?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Well, sounds good. Well, we look forward to getting you back in and seeing what the mood is with the national election related to this potentially historic night.
All right.
All right. Thanks so much. Okay. All right. Let's see. We're going to get someone in the studio here in a second, but we also probably go to Christine Shelby for a second here, if she's ready, if she's teed up, or are we going to another person? Christine, is Christine ready?
Yes, hi.
Yeah. All right. Christine's back with maybe some more data, and maybe while Christine is going over some of maybe some of the results she sees, we can get our guest in studio to come physically into the studio. So Mark, I'm going to ask you if you can do that while Christine shares with us a little bit more what's going on the HQ.
Great, thank you. Now we are still waiting for our Sacramento results to update with Decision Desk, but currently we are going back to the national map, and I think we've had this discussion earlier, but note that we get our projections from Decision Desk HQ. So what you might be watching on other news from other news organizations might be different, but the projections we have are from Decision Desk. Now,
Gotcha.
I believe, it looks like it just updated. So our
look at that! Look at the technology working in real time right in front of us. I love it. Go ahead, Christine. I'm sorry, I just got excited.
I did too, because this was 0 2 seconds ago. But we have just received an update, and for anyone who doesn't already know, I looked it up for you. Sacramento County elections updated at 8:15. The next update will come at 10 p.m. and the next update after that will come at 12 a.m. tomorrow.
Gotcha.
So
okay.
this is what we're seeing right now.
Oops, sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, go ahead.
So what do you see there, Christine? The screen's a little far away from me, so go ahead.
Oh, sorry. Sacramento mayoral election right now, we have Kevin McCarty in the lead with 41,000 votes, 56%, and Dr. Flo is at 32,000 votes, 43%. Total votes so far is 74,000, and if I remember correctly from going to the election site, we're only seeing about 30% of the vote counted so far.
Gotcha. Great.
And then in
All right.
District 2, currently Roger Dickinson is in the lead with 63% of the vote, and Stephen Walton sits at 36% of the vote, with
Great.
4,700 votes actually cast so far.
Wonderful. Look at that. I love it. So the Observer has, in real time, updated data on local races in one place where you wouldn't find this anywhere else. Look at that. Man, isn't technology wonderful? I love it. I love it. This is great. And then we just finished talking with Joe Bowers about the state propositions, and I'm going to kind of cheat. I've got my own little scroll down here as well, too. And it's still very early, but we're seeing some of the data roll in here for some of the state propositions. I'm going to look down here at Prop 6 early, very early. We got 57% no and 43% yes for Prop 6. I know that means something to our in-studio guest that we're going to have here. Christine, thank you so much for that. I think we're going to poke in with you one more time before the check in with you one more time before the night is done. We are about 45 minutes into our show, but thank you so much. This is really cool. I love this.
Thank you.
All right. So technology is, I just love this. You guys are sitting back, hopefully watching and enjoying this. Maybe you've got, a national program on another television over there, and you're sitting there, depending on what side of the aisle you're on. You might be drinking something, maybe champagne on one side, or drowning yourself in something else that we don't know what you're looking at. But we're having fun here, and we not only have talked to folks in Joe's down in Southern California. We've got now in studio, we have one of my favorite people, Chris Loxton. Chris, how you doing, brother? It's good to see you.
Oh my goodness, brother. Let me say real quick, this is fantastic. This is amazing. Shout out to everybody you got on the ground giving real live coverage. Shout out to everybody that's watching. This is amazing. I am so happy to be here, and I can't wait to get into it.
Oh man, I love it. I love your enthusiasm.
Yeah.
Do me a favor, Chris. Pull that head back just a little bit, just so they can see you. Man, you good looking dude, man.
I appreciate that, bro. I appreciate that. Yes, sir.
Don't hide it, but we understand. You got the reparations hat on there for sure.
Yes.
And we were very fortunate and very proud to name you and the Coalition for a Just and Equitable California as our Persons of the Year for 2023.
Blessings. Thank
because you guys have been on the ground working hard for Black folks in the state related to the reparations movement. Just do me a favor, just tell folks that might be not familiar with the work that you've been doing and the organization. Tell them a little bit about what you do.
Yeah, so CJEC, Coalition for a Just and Equitable California. We are California's first, only, and still leading statewide, grassroots, descendant-led organization born just for reparations and reparative justice for Black American freedmen here in the state of California. So we were born to achieve reparations and reparative justice for those of us whose ancestors were enslaved and emancipated in this country, who built the United States of America. And in 2019 and 2020, we had the privilege, the pleasure, the honor, really the blessing to work with then Assembly member, now Secretary of State, Dr. Shirley Weber, to help write the final version of the law that created the California Reparations Task Force. Then in 2021 to 2023, we worked with that first in the nation task force to help it do its work, outreach, educate, and bring more people into the reparations process. And since then, we've been working with state policymakers and lawmakers on actual reparations policy at the state level. We've also been involved in some of the other things that have been going on. You talked about one earlier, what is now called Prop 6. We were one of the original community co-sponsors on the bills that helped create Prop 6. And I want to give a big shout out here to our good brother, Samuel Nathaniel Brown, who was the original author of Prop 6, wrote Prop 6, the language that would become Prop 6 when he was, serving a 24 to life sentence. Right. So we helped and have been a big supporter of that effort as well, because it's harder for us to fight for reparations if we're still doing slavery. And that's what Prop 6 seeks to end. And then we've also been involved in helping the state of California really recognize that Black Americans, Black American freedmen, descendants of people who were enslaved in this country, American descendants of slavery, foundational Black, whatever your particular choice of term is for this group of people, we've been working very hard at the state level to make the state recognize and identify us as a specific group of people with specific needs, et cetera. And I am one of the lead organizers and advocates at the coalition.
Man, I love that. I love that work. And we need you guys on that line.
Thank you.
Fighting for us. And you guys have been doing an amazing job. Absolutely. So, there was a lot of movement around the reparations legislation over the last, the year for sure, but definitely the last few months. Give our folks just a little bit of update. We know that nothing got to the governor's desk, or some folks, something did. Yes, I should make sure.
Some things did. So at the start of this year, in January 2024, there were 18 different bills introduced based on one or more of the 100 plus recommendations of the California Reparations Task Force. And that task force, as I briefly mentioned, worked for 2 years from 2021 to 2023 to do three things really. Document the harm of slavery in California, educate the public about what it learned about slavery and its legacy in California too, and then make recommendations for reparations. And that those recommendations, over 100 or so, made their way into a final report that the task force released in July of 2023 last year. And then 18 of those 100 or so made their way into bills at the start of this year. Of the 18, 12 made it to the governor's desk. 11 were signed into law. One of the bills was vetoed. 2 of the bills were blocked before they got to the governor's desk earlier in the process. Another 2 bills were blocked right before they were at the governor's desk. That was the subject of all the protests and the controversy at the Capitol in late August. There were 3 bills that were voluntarily withdrawn on the part of the authors of those bills themselves. And then, again, as I mentioned, there was one of those bills that was vetoed. So, again, 11 bills did get to the governor's desk, and we are. I don't want to talk too much about what we're going to do next, but we are obviously looking forward to seeing more reparations policy and legislation coming forward soon in the new year. But that's sort of the end state of where we left off in late August.
Gotcha. And so I'll let you bury the lead about what's coming in the future. So I won't press you on that.
I'll give y'all a scoop.
Though. Yeah, give us a scoop when it's time. That's right. So the reparations movement is a long conversation. It's been a long time coming, for sure. And many people obviously say it's not a handout, but a debt owed to our community. And it's been widely discussed for a long time. There's conversation at federal, state, and local Sacramento level.
Absolutely.
From your perspective and from your understanding, share with us what you have seen or heard both at all those levels, if you can, federal, state, and here locally as well, too.
Yeah, thank you for asking that question, too. Actually, this coming next Tuesday, at City Hall, there's actually a City of Sacramento reparations-related resolution that the City Council is going to hear that would extend a community outreach program really to ask the City of Sacramento residents, do you as residents want us as a city to create some kind of reparations body, whether it's a reparations task force like we had at the state level, whether it's a reparations commission, some kind of reparations body at the city level. And Sacramento is one of, I want to say, 7 different cities in the state of California that have either attempted or are in the process of creating some kind of local reparations body to pursue reparations at the local level. That follows the work that's been going on at the state level. with, of course, the California Reparations Task Force that I just spoke about. There are at least 3 other states that either are thinking about creating a reparations task force like California did, or have created one. Similar efforts are right now underway in the state of New York, as well. And there are other states that are considering it also. And then at the federal level, I usually say this when we talk to folks at community meetings about reparations. We are light years ahead of the federal level.
Yes.
At the state level here in California, and even at the local level. I think there are something like over 100 different cities and municipalities across the country that have some reparations process that they are working on.
But Sacramento was one of the early ones to sign up.
Sacramento was one of the first cities to sign on to something that is called the MORE Coalition, M-O-R-E, Mayors Organized for Reparations and Equity. And our current mayor, Darrell Steinberg, was, I believe, and was part of the leadership of that. And that was really a collection and coalition collaboration of mayors across the state, across the country, really, that came together and said, we as mayors want to put our efforts and support behind reparations. Sacramento in 2021, I believe, passed a resolution at City Council. It was written by some folks on our team. Actually, shout out to Kim Mims. I don't know if you're listening, Kim. I hope you are. Kim Mims wrote a resolution here in Sacramento that the City Council passed in 2021 that really declared Sacramento's intent to pursue reparations, and also said that Sacramento has some responsibility for what happened to us. So there's efforts going on. It's important for folks to know there's efforts going on at the city or local, the state, and the federal level.
Sure, absolutely. Now, and I know that you've been actively involved with talking to the mayoral candidates and other city council members about, where they stand with reparations. What is your feeling about the mayoral candidates? Obviously, Kevin McCarty was in the state assembly and then in the California Legislative Black Caucus, and both of them have expressed their support of reparations. But what's your feeling on how do you think the city will, under a new leadership, will push the reparations movement?
I think there's going to be enough public demand, no matter who is elected mayor, that the city of Sacramento will create some kind of reparations body, whether it be a commission or task force, whatever we decide. But I do think there will be enough public demand that comes through enough public input through the processes that are going on now to move the mayor, and not just the mayor, but the city council, because it's actually at this point something that the city council we want to get behind also. Sure. Not just the mayor. Whomever it is. But I do think whoever wins, we will have some kind of reparations effort here in the city of Sacramento locally.
Sure. And you mentioned the city council meeting, which is next Tuesday. And we don't know if it's the 2 o'clock or the 5 o'clock.
I want to say it's the 5
meeting,
o'clock. I think it is the 5 o'clock.
You think it's the 5 o'clock? Okay, great. All right. I know we're trying to pay attention to that.
No worries.
So we'll be paying attention to that, of course, as well too. Now, also related to reparations movement, obviously the presidential race. There's been a lot of conversation about Kamala Harris, should she get into the White House, about her support of potentially a reparations movement. She has said it, but there's also been some folks who don't necessarily believe that she's saying it the truth. And I don't know if folks have ever asked Trump where he is with it. So tell me your thoughts.
About that. That's very interesting you say that. I did hear the Kamala question and response. I think she said something like it needs to be studied. To us, that doesn't go far enough. Obviously, we don't want to do a lot of studying. We want to do a lot of doing.
Study was done.
Right. Thank you very much. And actually, we've made the case that the federal government does not need a study. What they need to do is incorporate California's study.
Correct. As
part of the record, because California's study has both a federal national piece to it and a statewide piece to it also. I did hear the Kamala piece about studying it. We want to do more than studying, obviously. We want to do it. And I haven't heard much about what Trump has said about it. I think, though, what we see going on in the states and at the local levels, I think one thing that's going to do, if we have our way, is help move and motivate the federal national government. A lot of things happen at the local city and state and county level first. Right. And then that provides the motivation, the incentive,
and the blueprint.
Right. right, the blueprint, the courage, the example, right, to help get the federal government there too.
Gotcha. All right. Yeah. So Mark is back there trying to land an airplane to me because he's telling me we got somebody. So I want to come back to you in a second.
Yes, sir.
We have live. Yeah, we do have live though. Roger Dickinson, is that what my understanding is, Mark? We got Russell Steiger from the Observer team who is at Roger Dickinson's gathering. I see you were flying a plane. There we go. Well, that's outside something. I know that can't be it. Is that why we went live? Was to get is that why we went live?
Okay. I'll be right back. Oh, there we go.
I hear somebody. Sounds like I heard Roger. There he is. I hear his voice.
Got it.
Chris can't hear him. I'm sorry, Chris. I got it in my headphones.
I trust you.
Yeah. So Russell, do we have look
good.
at that.
There we go.
Oh, look at that. All right, so I'm going to tee it up. So Russell, I'm assuming you can hear me, and hopefully you got says
So
Russell Steiger Jr., but it was not Russell Steiger.
Well, I'm very encouraged by the results that we've seen so far tonight with a good, strong lead, and so I'm very, very excited to see this. We got a lot of votes yet to count, so not declaring any victories, but certainly encouraged by what we're seeing so far.
And what has been your message overall been to voters?
The message really has been about getting the attention and resources that we deserve here in North Sacramento and haven't gotten for far too long, about having someone with experience who has relationships with local, state, and federal elected and appointed officials, who has been able to put coalitions together in the past, knows where to go to find the resources that we need to invest in our part of the city. And so that message, I think, has resonated very nicely with the voters who are, I think, hungry for someone who can be a champion for North Sacramento at City Hall.
I know specifically, how do you think your campaign overall has related to Black voters?
Well, I think in many respects, Black voters are looking for the same things that all the voters in the district are. But you know, the issues of job creation, of employment, of supporting local businesses, of creating business opportunities, of additional housing, affordable housing, housing that people can afford to get into home ownership, safe neighborhoods, and a stronger relationship between the law enforcement agencies and the neighborhoods. And youth investment, I think, is a huge issue for us here in North Sacramento and the city as a whole. But that's something that I think that has really been important to Black voters, that I'm committed and have shown in the past that commitment to developing our youth, investing in our youth, and empowering them.
Anything else you'd like to say?
No, I just I'm happy to be here and looking forward to getting to work.
Russell, tell Roger thank you for sharing the time, and
okay,
we'll see him soon.
All right.
All right.
Okay. Oh yeah.
Sounds good. All right. Chris, you couldn't hear that, but it was Roger was speaking a little bit about some of the things that he wants to focus in on: affordable housing, investment in young people, and that sort of thing. So we appreciate that. Russell is now going to leave. He's going to go right down the street from Roger Dickinson's place over to Stephen Walton here in a few minutes as well too. So you know we're trying to cover this, man.
I see it. Listen, man, I see all of the movement. I see all of the coverage. It is amazing. And shout out to everybody that's out in the field right now too, doing amazing work. I haven't seen nothing like this here for Sacramento since, yet.
No,
it's like first time. So yeah, for real.
We're trying to do that. All right. So you said obviously back to kind of the discussion we were saying, the local and state will obviously add fuel to the fire of a national. Should Kamala Harris get into the White House, do you see her relationship with California as being something that can be beneficial to the African American community and the reparations movement?
Specifically on the reparations movement, I do. I think it helps that she has a California connection. It's going to be up to us, those of us who are advocating, and those who are in the general public, obviously, and the press too, and also folks in her team and on her team in DC to make that connection matter. But I definitely think, to have somebody who is from California, connected to California, and then, potentially become the president, I think that opens doors for us in the reparations space. Like I said, I think no matter who gets there, I think there's going to be enough public demand for this to happen no matter what. But it definitely is an advantage, or at least presents itself as an advantage.
Sure.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay, so I want to ask you a family question.
Yeah, what's up? What's up?
So
we family.
Yeah, we are family, absolutely, and we know this is being streamed. So there's that. It's a family conversation that's being streamed and recorded and preserved for forever. But as things were falling apart for some of the reparations bills that were happening in California, there was a refrain, I would say, that was kind of mentioned, is that Black voters could not have their full trust in Black elected officials, and that the failure of, particularly in California, of the reparations movement to move forward was going to reflect negatively on candidate Kamala Harris, because Black voters were going to either sit out or vote other party outside of the historic strong numbers in the Democratic Party. Right. And I've spoken to lots of people, and particularly the conversation has been about how Black men in particular did not want to participate in the electoral process this year. Talk to me a little bit about what you've seen on the ground and what your perception is related to, African Americans, well, particularly related to how the reparations, how that impacted potentially Kamala Harris, and then also about Black men in particularly feeling like they were not being, or should not participate in the electoral process. Yeah, so I think what we saw happen at the last days of the California process to pass bills this year, specifically bills that were reparations bills, and some of those bills that were blocked and that came apart at those last days. I think the fact that the people who were responsible for taking those bills apart, for blocking those bills, for killing those bills, were Black elected officials, members of the California Legislative Black Caucus. I think, one, that said to Black people across the state and across the country that just because you are Black and you're elected to a position of power, don't mean you're going to do things that Black people like. It can mean that you're going to do things that Black people don't like. And I think that fed or supported an already existing narrative that was already in the air, already in the energy, saying to Black folks, the Democratic Party takes your votes for granted. You don't get nothing in exchange for your vote. You vote for the Democratic Party in these overwhelming numbers, and nothing gets better in your communities. They don't offer you nothing. They just expect you to vote. And when you say you don't want to vote or vote for them, then they shame you, they blame you, they explain you, they treat you. I sometimes talk about it as being in an abusive relationship. And I've heard brothers tell me this, I've heard sisters tell me this. I've thought it myself, that in many ways, Black folks are in an abusive relationship with the Democratic Party, whether it be on the state, local level, and in many ways the federal level too, where we get abused, we get ignored, we get cheated on, we get our money stolen and taken. And then when we say we don't want to be with you no more, then they say, well, who you want to be with, that other person? That other person is worse than me. And what we saw at the Capitol with those reparations bills, that added to that energy, because that was already there. And that's been, of course, that's been brewing for years. Oh yeah, for decades. For years. So on the Black men part, I think, well, I am proud of the brothers. I am proud of Black men for saying, in many ways, I'm just speaking about Black men that I've heard speak about this. Not all of us, but at least a lot of the ones that I talk to in my orbit, I've heard brothers say, I want something for my vote.
I'm not voting for you just because the other person is supposed to be scary or bad. And you have to tell me explicitly what you're going to do for me in order for you to get my vote. And if you don't do that, I'm going to either not vote for you, vote for somebody else, or not vote at all. And I've heard brothers say that. I've heard sisters say that too, to be quite honest with you.
Mm-hmm.
And to be honest with you, also, I am proud of that kind of thinking and proud of that kind of approach, because that to me shows a sign of political maturity in our people. Where, and let's keep it real, every other group does this. You see it happening right now with the Arab population and the Muslim population who are upset with the Biden-Harris administration about the Gaza-Palestine war. Look at what happened in Michigan in the primaries this year, where you had hundreds of thousands of people vote uncommitted because they were mad at what the current policy was. This is a group that has historically supported the Democratic Party.
Sure.
And this is a part, I think, of what you're supposed to do if you want to get what you want in politics. Politics is a hardball sport. It's a cutthroat sport. You know this very, very well. And you got to get something in exchange for your vote. And you got to be willing to not vote for the person if you don't get what you want. That's something that we have been hesitant to do for many generations, or at least over the past 60-something years since I've been, studying stuff. I've seen this kind of pattern over the past 60 or something years. So that's what I'm seeing now. And I do think that at least for that, 2 or 3 weeks right after those last days at the Capitol, because there was so much national attention on what was happening in California. I mean, there was national press around it. And people then said, listen, and people said at the Capitol that day, this can negatively impact Kamala Harris. This can negatively impact the Democratic Party at the national level. And it's an uncomfortable, I think, place for us to be in, because I think the country is used to, the Democratic Party is used to just getting our votes, like just getting our votes. And we're saying, actually, tell us what you're going to do for us first, give us something in exchange. And that's new, that's uncomfortable. And I think that's actually a sign of growth.
Gotcha. Okay, Mark is trying to fly in another plane. Mark, do we have somebody else that we need to jump to real quick? Because I like Chris. I like Chris being in the studio here. Oh, is that McCarty? Okay.
Oh man. Okay. All right.
And is he going to talk to us, or is he just showing? Is he just shaking hands? And
not everyone had their house.
Okay, Robert's there with him.
When you go to the gas station, or you go
Oh,
to the grocery store,
he just finished making a speech. Okay, so maybe we could get Robert to get a second with him before he walks out. Robert, hopefully you can catch him. I know you're standing there. You're trying to get to him. Okay, now he's all right.
Shout out to Robert too.
Yeah,
doing a great job out there.
Robert is doing a good job. Yeah, Robert's been staying on top of our reparations coverage as well too.
Yes, he has. I saw him at the last community meeting that we did here in Sacramento, and he has been all over it, and much appreciation for that.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so we're gonna Mark, keep me ready, because I want to dive a little deeper into that. I see Dave Jones, former city council member, insurance commissioner. Okay, so we'll come back to Robert as soon as he can get Kevin. I don't know if he can hear us, or is he?
Kevin Harding just gave a speech. Very nice speech. Just said that a lot of those left the count. She might grab Kevin here if he gets funny.
Yeah, if you try and get him, that's fine. We'll be standing by. We're just here talking with Chris Loxton, so we got plenty to talk about for a second. Yeah, we're good. Is Christine, are there some updated numbers? No, I don't think there's. No, I don't think so. So she said it's going to be a little bit while. So that's fine. We can keep going with Chris here for a second. And we got about 45 minutes left of the show, so we're not going to keep you too much longer.
Right on. No worries.
But I appreciate it. So while we minimize, let's just minimize Robert's screen. And then keep an eye on him to make sure, see if we can get Kevin, then we'll get him to jump in. So Chris, I appreciate that perspective. I have had a lot of conversations with a lot of folks over the last couple months, in particular, related to that subject matter. And I think maybe I would, I hear what you're saying. I think I would, if I offer a counter to what you're saying, is look, we know that in a normal situation, that's what we do. But when we are looking at someone on the other side of this of the ledger who
who we talking about?
We talking about Donald Trump. We talking about Donald Trump.
Right.
Absolutely. I'll say his name. I ain't afraid to say his name. He don't
Come
scare
on,
me.
Come on.
He don't scare me.
Say his name.
Say his name.
Donald Trump. All right.
So yeah. So but someone who has who's spoken so negatively about our community in particular. Right. Whether it was Central Park 5, whether it's, the way he has spoken so negatively about Black women in particular. It seems like every Black woman he meets is nasty. That's a nasty question. You're a nasty woman. Like every time he talks to a Black woman, it seems like that's what comes out of his mouth. And not to mention some other words that he's used to describe some of our women. And then also doing things like, agreeing to, or wanting to have immunity for law enforcement officers and stuff like that. When confronted with that sort of decision, what have you kind of told, folks related to that?
So,
because that's very real. I mean, let's be real.
No, one, I tell folks, those are the only two options, first of all.
Sure.
The red team and the blue team are not the only options. As you know, this year we got Cornel West and Melina Abdullah running with the People's Party, Jill Stein and Butch Ware running with the Green Party, Claudia De La Cruz, and I forget who's running with her for one of the other third parties or one of the other parties. So one, I tell folks, you don't have just two options. That's the first thing. You're not stuck between a rock and a hard place, as one of the young brothers I was talking to earlier today told me, brother, who had been in prison for many years, home now, voted today.
Do we have McCarty?
Oh.
He's about to give him soon. Okay,
let me know. Yeah, let me know.
Yeah, we will cut away as soon as McCarty gets into frame, Mark. So again, I think folks know that we're being kind of nimble here. So I'm sorry to interrupt,
no
Chris.
worries,
Go ahead.
No, this is live, and thank you. So one, there's not only two options.
Sure.
And again, I was talking to a young brother today who had been in prison, and is home and voted today.
Mm-hmm.
And we actually had a debate yesterday. So I do policy trainings for folks who are formerly incarcerated every Monday evening, or every other Monday evening. And we actually had a debate last night about whether or not Trump with 34, 35 felonies, if he gets hired for the top job in the world today, would that change the way that people think about people who got felonies?
Okay.
And I'm talking to room people with felonies.
Sure.
And there was some people saying yes, some people saying no. But to the point though, so when people bring this choice up, well, the other person is too bad, we gotta vote for this person. One, that's what we hear every 4 years. We every 4 years we hear we can't vote for the other person because that other person is so bad, so vote for me because I'm not as bad. And I don't think, brothers and sisters, I don't think we're going for that no more. That's not enough. You got to do better than that. You got to tell me, and let's keep it real, the things Trump, so first of all, personally, I'd rather somebody who's openly against me rather than somebody who say they my friend and then do things against me. And what we see from the current Democratic Party, I'm talking about, at least in my experience, statewide, federal-wide, even locally too, is they'll say nice, good things, and then they'll do the bad things to you too. So, I mean, there's almost an endless list.
Yeah, you have to hold people accountable for sure.
You absolutely do. And I want us to get to a place where we are not having these bad, lesser evil choices. That's like, I don't want to vote for the lesser of the two worst people. That's not personally what I'm going to do. And so this is what I communicate to folks who talk to me about this. And I tell them also, listen, your vote is your choice.
Sure.
You can choose to vote or choose to not vote. You have that right. People fought for you to have that right. And I'm not going to shame you, blame you, explain you. Either way, I'm just going to give you my example of what I'm doing.
Mm-hmm. Gotcha. All right. Well, I mean, I know it's an issue of grave concern.
It is.
And I think obviously we as a Black community, I've always said this, there aren't that many voting blocks in the country. We are a voting block. We move and make decisions. We can change an election in lots of different ways. And there are certain things that I think we are aligned with no matter what, because of our lineage and our shared experiences. And so I'm hoping that we continue to build and grow in a positive way. Is he talking to somebody? I can't see. Oh, he's talking to our photographer or someone on his staff. No, that's someone taking a photo. Oh, I got you. Okay. All right.
No, brother, I hear you. And so one, I think obviously I think we vote too much for one party right now.
Sure.
And I think I want the party to compete for our votes. Like the Republicans don't even up until very recently, the Republican Party has not even been competing for our votes.
Well, I don't know if would even say, because here's what I always often see, right? I see the goalposts kind of moving, and we will hold the Democratic candidate or Kamala Harris accountable for the conversation about reparations, conversation about mass incarceration of African Americans. Like, we hold her very accountable, but the other candidates, Cornell, Jill Stein, Trump, we don't hold them as accountable. Now, Cornell will speak out, Jill Stein will speak out on their own.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and Trump will not.
And so I think everybody should get the same energy.
Exactly, and that's what
the same energy.
That's what I'm.
And also, let me add to this too, though. When you are saying to people, though, and it's so, I don't use an analogy, but when you are saying to people, I'm the party of your group of people, I think your people should support me. I want your vote. And we have historically given you our vote 1,000% of the time.
Sure.
70, 80%. You owe us a little special extra something.
Sure.
Okay? If I'm voting for you 90, if I give you 90% of my money, you owe me. We gotta have a special relationship.
Sure.
Right. And so I think that's why you see more of the energy on the Democratic side, because the Democratic Party gets so much of our vote. It's like if like you got a bank and you got $500 million deposited in that bank, but then you got no money or very little money in the other bank. When you go to the bank that got your money, you're going to be talking to them different.
Of course.
You expect more from them. And it's similar in the political world too. And like I said, I want everybody to get the same energy, but I also want to make sure that those who we are supporting do right by us.
Sure.
And up until this point, or at least until now, the Democratic Party, the Republican Party, those two in particular have not been doing right by us, specifically as a people. That's got to change.
Gotcha. Well, I would say Democratic Party has been doing right by us way more than the Republican Party.
Depends on who you talk to.
Yeah,
depends on who you talk to.
I would agree with what you. Oh, we got Kevin McCarty here. So let's we're gonna come back to you in a quick second. Robert, I don't know if you can hear us. Hopefully you can. I see Kevin McCarty there. Robert's mic is muted. And did we just lose him just that quick? We lost you. Robert, you had him and then you lost him.
I don't even hear him. Evan just stepped away for a second, but he's going to come talk to us here.
Okay, do we have an extra mic for him? Because we can barely hear you, Robert.
We got real packed here. Everybody, there's people. Luke Wood, President of the United States here. I've seen several council members, Lisa Captain's here. Katie Maple, Katrina Delamontes, they're all here. 10 homes.
Sure. Gotcha. Okay.
A lot of excitement here.
Hey, Robert, can you hear me?
Let's tell you in his own words.
Okay. So Roberta, it's just, do we have an extra microphone for McCarty? Should he come up and speak to Robert? Or are we just doing the live sound there? Okay. All right. All right. Kevin's shaking hands. There we go. Okay. Roberta, get closer. We can't hear. Okay. All right. We're having audio challenges here.
Yeah, no, just grateful. Donated and voted. So that's a over now it's 10 now. So our voter reps are paying the requests for that. In the process. So right? Is there any one thing that you're like you can't wait to tackle when you get into office and take care of? I'm just waiting to see how these. Let's go a little early. Okay. Yeah. You think your experience and that will help you bring it in more money to the 100%. That's what I think. I think there's really how you. Sacramento needs to tackle our problems with others. Yes. The county and we're going to the state government. So they're saying we're doing a pretty good job for resources in Sacramento. Kevin, congratulations. We'll talk again soon.
All right.
Robert J. Hansen, I come to you from the cafeteria downtown at head of the party's campaign party, where he is up by about 10,000 votes, with roughly 29% of the votes having been counted so far.
All right. Thanks, Robert. Appreciate it. We apologize a little bit for some of the audio challenges, but it's a noisy room. But we were there.
Hey, yeah, it's election night, man.
It is election night.
It's election night, man. It's like the Super Bowl of like politics.
That's right.
Kind of into it. So yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
I think the line that we're going to probably hear from everyone tonight is that it's still early and there's still a lot of votes to count. I know I heard Kevin say that as well too, and that's probably a wise decision because it is very early and lots of things can still change. Right. So Chris, I really appreciate you getting in here.
Pleasure.
I would look forward. How can folks follow up and continue to pay attention to some of the work that you're doing?
Yeah, so follow us on Instagram, IG right now at CJEC Official, at CJEC Official, at and on Instagram, on Twitter at CJEC Official, on TikTok at CJEC Official, Facebook at CJEC Official. Website www.cjec-official.org, cjecofficial@gmail.com. Follow us. Go to our website specifically though, www.cjec-official.org. Sign up for our reparations newsletter. Sign up for our reparations text alerts and sign up to volunteer. All right, sign up to volunteer. We need people to come out with us. We was at Sac City College last week. We're gonna be at Sac State next week, UC Davis the following week after that, talking to the students, talking to the family. I was at one of the Men's Healing Circles events just about an hour or two before I came here down in South Sac. Listen to some of the young folks. We need people up and out with us, raising awareness about reparations in California because we got a big year coming up.
Sure. Absolutely. Yeah. How are you on time? Do you want to stick around or do you got to bounce?
Look, man, I got time, man.
You got time?
I got time.
You can stay in the room with us. I'm not trying to kick you out by any stretch of the imagination. I know you can't really hear the folks that we got going. Do we have anybody else teed up and ready? What about Dante Early? Or are we anybody else? Or maybe we can go. Nope, not yet. No. Is he ready? It doesn't look like he's ready. What about Christine? Let's maybe go back to Christine for a second and with our HQ and see, there she is. Hey, Christine. Anything new or updated that you want to share with us related to some of the election numbers? I know we said a lot of the local stuff might not get updated till later, but have you seen any change with any of the other numbers or anything?
I haven't. I did want to let everyone know that the vendor decision desk was having some technical difficulties. So some races you might not notice anything populating, and it's supposed to be populating within the next couple minutes. So just be patient as we get closer also to the 10 o'clock hour. That is when the next batch from Sacramento County is supposed to be coming in as well. But I don't have any updated numbers yet.
Okay. All right. Well, that is okay. I think as I'm looking here, it looks like they're saying the Republican Party has gained control of the U.S. Senate, 51 to 43 right now. And the Republican Party is also up leaning in the House, 187 to 166 right now. It looks like the Republicans have gained one seat and the Democrats have lost a seat in the House.
Wow.
I'm looking at all this on our HQ. So this is pretty fascinating. I love the technology that we have here.
That's gonna be important.
Yes.
That Senate's gonna be important.
Well, in this
Congress.
Yes. And if we're looking at if we stopped and we said it ends right now, which there's no such thing, no game ends in the third quarter. They only end in the fourth quarter. Okay. But if we looked at that right now, the Republican Party would have a supermajority with the yes.
Man.
They'll have everything: the Supreme Court, the Senate, the House, and the White House. And so elections have consequences.
Yes, they do. Yes, they do. Who you vote, you tell people who you vote for matters, and who you don't vote for matters too.
Yes, absolutely. And so, which is a question I want to come back to you, Chris, in a second. I see we got Craig on the screen. Is there a particular reason? No, just Craig is just looking good.
I have no idea why I'm on the screen.
I have no idea why he's on the screen. Okay. Like I said, if you wanted to get the high tech, the graphics, and folks that know what they're doing, watch CNN or somebody else. But
look, we're having a good time here, Larry. That's just how it is, man. We're just gonna have a good
We've
time.
got food. We got food. We have non adult beverages. So we are doing good. But yeah, so Supreme Court and the White House and the Senate but you know what? The sun will come up tomorrow.
It will, and it's still early. It's we just said it.
We did just say it's still early.
It's still too early.
Yes, it is too early. Absolutely.
To call the final stuff. But that would be something if there was a Republican House. That's if the Republicans kept the House. If they took the Senate, which it looks like they did take the Senate, they had a very narrow margin of error there. I mean, it was
one seat or two seats.
One seat, yeah. And we'll see what happens with the presidency. But this is something.
Now, looking at the state propositions as well too. Prop 6 right now, 25% reporting. It's at 54% no, and 46% yes.
Okay. That's better than the last numbers we saw, though.
I think it is, yes.
Okay, so that gap is narrow.
And Prop 34 is 50-50. Like, there's 560 votes separating the two right now.
Every vote counts.
Every vote does count.
What about Prop 36?
36 is right now pretty strong, 70% yes.
That's where about the polling was.
Yes.
Polling I saw
it's
late
pretty,
September was about 70-30.
Yeah, and that's what it's looking like right now. So
West Sacramento.
We have West Sacramento teed up?
And we have Flow.
And we have Flow teed up. Okay, so you put one on screen and we will see which one that is. So we have our mayor, our Black women mayor candidates here. This is. I can't see. Is that Flo? Yeah, that's Flo. Okay, I see.
Wow.
Oh, Flo's got a little gaggle.
right, Flo. Wow.
Okay. Where's our microphone? Okay. So I'm hoping that our team can stick a microphone in there so we can hear a little bit better from Dr. Flo's race. Oh, and we just lost Dante. I just saw her turn and walk away. And I see Angelica trying to chase her down. Oh, we're walking outside. Oh, she's walking outside to give us an exclusive observer interview. That's what it looks like.
There you go.
She's running away.
Or she's running away. No, it looks like, I think it's exclusive. So, okay, Angelica, I think we can hear you now.
Okay, fantastic. Can you hear her as well?
Yes, yes, I think so. Just speak loud.
Yes. Okay, well, I'll do the best that I can. Well, oh, I've got a bit of feedback here, but yeah. So, we've said repeatedly throughout the night it's too early, so I don't want to talk about the results, but more so about the momentum from this race. You know, how is it shaping for you your future plans on how you want to continue to work in the community?
So my future plans in regards to what the race and the momentum has done, it has been an amazing experience to be going door to door throughout our entire city and really hearing from community members, what are their priorities? What are they feeling? What are the things that they see are challenges or issues that haven't been addressed at the leadership level and at the mayoral level? And so have been excited about that. We've heard a lot around homelessness. We've heard a lot around our roads, and in particular around affordable housing as well, and our public safety. And so I'm excited to continue to roll my sleeves up. I am on city council no matter what happens with this race. And so looking forward to channeling all of that energy and all of those community voices and ensuring that we move those priorities forward.
Fantastic. And just sticking with, talking more so about the journey, are there some unexpected challenges or moments of pride just throughout this whole thing that you want to share that kind of stood out?
For me, it has been the overwhelming support that has just been an opportunity that, once again, I say, what I love about campaigning is that you really get to see the heart of your city. And we certainly have seen folks come out, we've seen them walk, we've seen them supporting and talking and all of the things. And that part gives me not only hope, but pride in my city. And I'm looking forward to continuing to be the voice for those who have voted for me.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much for having us.
Hey, I got one question, Angelica, before you let her go.
Yeah, of course, Larry has a question.
Does she have, what are we going to call the professional baseball team that's coming to Sacramento region?
What was the question?
What are we going to call the professional baseball team?
Oh, Larry. The hardest question. Here's the thing. I am excited for the A's to be coming to West Sacramento. I'm even more excited to see what opportunities our West Sacramentans, our small businesses, and also just the community around, including Sacramento, how we can work together and collaborate to ensure that the 3 years potentially turn into 4, potentially turn into more.
Come on.
Fantastic.
3 to 4 to more. I love that.
Yes. No more questions. She's been working really hard. It's been a long night.
I know she has.
There you have it.
All right. Thanks, Angelica. Thank you, Dr. Early. Appreciate the time.
Thank you.
All right.
Wow.
I like that. Turn it from, she said, you couldn't hear her, but she said, hoping that we can get the A's to go from 3 years to 4 years to more.
There you go.
I like that.
That's right.
I like that. I'll be honest. I think Sacramento is going to show out when we bring that.
I think so too.
Yeah.
I think the city's hungry for it. I think obviously, I think the Kings was just voted the best
arena in the NBA.
NBA. So obviously the fans, and I'm originally from New York, and one thing
you're from New York. I couldn't tell, Chris. We couldn't tell.
If you couldn't really tell. And one thing I even knew back in New York, one thing I knew was, man, them Sacramento fans, man. Like anytime the Knicks played the Kings, I knew it was going to be a loud arena. It's going to be a lot of fans. So I know the fans are going to show up and show out for the baseball team, just like we show up and show out for the soccer teams, like we show up and show out for the basketball team.
Yeah, no doubt. I think, and I can't wait for a warm Sacramento evening when they say the Yankees or the Red Sox are going to be.
Man.
I mean, can you imagine?
What?
Are you?
Well,
I'm assuming.
I grew up in a Mets household.
I knew it was going to be a Mets. I had something told me it was a
Mets.
Mets.
I grew up in a Mets. But when New York play, I'm a New York fan.
Gotcha. Okay, Cassandra. Oh, we got Cassandra. Cassandra's ready. Okay, Chris, stay with us if you don't mind. I'm gonna do a one-on-one though, if you don't mind. I got Cassandra Pye, who's going to be joining us here. Cassandra is going to be popping in. Cassandra was in the Schwarzenegger administration. She was one of his, I think, deputy chief of staff. Did we lose her? Okay. I'm just keep talking, just doing. Okay. Hey, look, this is my first time, man. This is not what I do. Am I doing all right? I appreciate the love.
You do a great job.
I guess I watch enough TV, so I should know how it works. But Cassandra Pye was in the Schwarzenegger administration. I think you were deputy chief of staff, correct, Cassandra?
Yes, sir.
There we go. And she's currently with Lucas Public Affairs, and is a keen observer of political action throughout the nation, and particularly California and the region. And so, Cassandra, I appreciate you checking in with us. It's about 9:39. We'll take a few minutes with you. What are your thoughts of the night so far?
Well, I'm a Black woman. How do you think I feel?
Oh. Tell us more.
Regardless
tell us more,
of my
Cassandra.
party.
Yeah. It's a tough night.
It's still a little early, but as you would expect, I'm getting texts from a variety of places. I think probably one of the more significant notes I received was from a pollster friend who said that in Philly, for example, brown men and Black men are voting for Trump. And that white women are where the same pollster said to me over the weekend, white women seem to be breaking towards Harris, at least based on some exit polls in Philadelphia, they broke the other way. So we knew this was going to be close. We knew this was going to be probably a nail biter. We knew this would likely take us late into the evening. I don't think anybody really expected there would be a landslide either way. I think what's probably still most interesting for me is what I just shared with you is those lines of voters that the Democrats couldn't count on. I think the other thing I'd say, and I think this is all tied together, is we've all been watching the networks share places where Trump is overperforming from last go round, and where the vice president is underperforming, in places where President Biden was stronger. And again, I still think that kind of goes to just a comfort or a lack of comfort with voting for women of color. I mean, I
gotcha. Got to call it what it is. Let me ask you. So I do want to ask you that, in particularly at the national level, do you think this is a reflection of strategy by the Harris campaign, or do you think, I mean, you're alluding to it, that the nation just still is not ready to elect a woman in leadership?
I would say it's a little of both. The old adage used to be that, campaigns are, elections are won by candidates, cash, and campaigns.
Right.
There's no question this was, both campaigns were well funded, but the Harris campaign was well funded. It feels like, and I was not on the inside, obviously, but it feels like it was a thoughtful, strategic, well-run campaign. And certainly in the battleground states. And in California, we're in a vacuum. We
Right.
don't live in Michigan. We don't live in Pennsylvania. We don't know what it felt like, but certainly, many of us were either working remotely or even on the ground in some of those places. So we at least sensed that the campaign was run well. And so then it comes down to the candidate. And maybe she wasn't, battle tested enough. Maybe she didn't say enough about, who she was and her why and sort of those things that people talk about. But that's the third C. And I'm not sure we're
Sure.
quite ready still as a nation to elect a female to the highest office in the land.
Sure.
But I don't think that that's all there is. I mean, I think there, certainly I'm not ideological, but still as a partisan, I still think that there's some weak points in the Democratic agenda and in what sells in sort of all the corners of the country. And so I just think everybody needs to be mindful of that as well.
Gotcha. Now, if you, I hope I can share this publicly, but like I said, you have been in the Republican Party inner circles for years. You have made, I believe, at least a public stance related to this particular candidate at the top of the ticket for the Republican Party, that you're not necessarily supporting that candidate. Tell us a little bit about why you made that decision and what do you think this means moving forward for those like yourselves who might be more conservative but don't necessarily align with the candidate.
Yes, conservative, but not necessarily supporting the former president. I still feel like I have a home in the Republican Party because I still have, you'll love this word, I still have comrades who sort of, share my perspective around, certainly our points of view around policy, but also, our points of view around, I'll just say civility in the arena. And I know there are people who still, sort of feel that way. And so I still feel like I have a home, but I'm, this, my friend, that I qualified for my Medicare card this year. And so, I'm going to be here, but I'm not going to be here for another 65 years.
Sure.
I tend to think we will find a space for voices like mine in that middle, either middle right or middle left, and that is where the resolution will be found. And I think that'll happen. I believe that will happen in my lifetime.
Gotcha.
Even
now,
as short as it might be.
What'd you say?
That's as short as it might be.
Sure. No, we're wishing long life for you. I don't know if you've been watching the show with us here in studio. We have Chris Logston, who's been involved, obviously, with the reparations movement as well, both locally and statewide in particular. And, we were talking a little bit about, kind of where African Americans are in particular to the electorate, and feeling like the Democratic Party has taken Black voters for granted. And I'm sure that you are probably very much aligned with that sort of thinking. But where do Black voters go from here? I mean, if there is, or what do people need to do? What do Blacks need to hear from elected officials to secure their vote moving forward?
That's a good question. I'm going to answer that two ways. I think the easiest answer or the shortest answer can be found in our local elections. You did a fine job of putting 3 African American women on the cover of your fine publication a couple of weeks ago, which for me represents what's next. I think we've got to encourage, support, and engage this next generation of young Black leadership at the local level. It all starts local because that gets you to county office, that gets you to state office, that gets you statewide, that moves you on to the national stage. So I think, and if I'm honest with you, I think where my hope lies the most is that there are young Black men and women, but I'm especially excited about the young Black women that have chosen to run, that are able to run effective campaigns, that are raising that cash. So Candidates Cash campaign.
Candidates Cash and campaign. I like that.
Don't forget. And so that's happening, and that gives me a great deal of hope. And I hope and pray that that is happening in communities, not just around California, but around the nation. So that's my easy answer. That's my short answer.
Local.
Local, and talented folks who are willing to run, challenge the status quo, all the things that we're watching take place here in Sacramento, which I am tremendously excited about. So set that aside for a second. Then I think, and you know this, I've got 4 adult sons, and we talk politics off and on all the time. I think both parties, but I certainly think if the Democratic Party wants to continue to count on support from our community, relevancy and action and results, quite frankly, are going to matter. I say this all the time. It's got to be a challenge for anybody who lives in California. I'm just going to say it, who's regardless of your party, who sees the challenges in healthcare, education, criminal justice. I mean, all of the places where we see gaps that are racially based. We have a Democratic legislature, we have a Democratic governor.
Sure.
We're a deep blue state, and yet we're still not resolving problems for a lot of communities, but certainly not resolving a lot of problems for the Black community. And I think that's something, if I were sitting in, at headquarters, I'd be asking myself, or not just headquarters, I'd be asking myself as a sitting lawmaker or someone who wants to run for office, what do we need to do differently? And that's a talk show with you and me that, goes a lot longer than the few minutes we have tonight. But
absolutely.
I do think we all have the right to demand that government work for us. Set party aside. We just do. We're taxpayers, and we lean in and we engage. We have a right to demand that government works for us. And in some places, in some spaces, it's not, which again is why I'm excited about this new generation, because in my opinion, folks that are in my stage and age in life, we've had our shot at it. And it's time to let a new generation, take their shot and maybe potentially do things a little bit differently. And that's my hope.
Gotcha. Now, that's wise advice. I think if anybody's listening, they need to pay attention to that. I think you could hear some of that. Yeah, absolutely. So you've been paying particular close attention to the local mayoral race as well, too. It's still very early. A lot of votes still to count. What do you see there from your perspective?
Well, I know
you got one. I know what you're hoping for, but what do you seriously? What do you see?
Well, again, I would say on that one, regardless of the outcome, my view is we've got we have a lot of strings that if we could pull them together, and we're just about there as a city and as a region.
Sure.
And I engaged in the mayor's race where I typically don't, because
Right.
again, number one, there's, in Dr. Kofor, I certainly see what I described as that new generation of leadership. We do not agree, Larry, as you probably know,
Sure.
on
Yes.
everything
Right.
ideologically, but what I see there is an opportunity to start to think about things a little bit differently, maybe do things a little bit differently, and to blow the status quo a little bit, which is kind of, you would probably say to yourself, it's a little bit odd coming from somebody who says they're a conservative and still registered Republican, but I live downtown and I care
Right.
about the city and I want to see it be better in my lifetime. And so for me, the Sacramento race, even most of these local races are really about taking a different look at, a different approach at how we govern.
Mhm.
I have to say this because I feel, and this goes to the prior comment around state government. Running is easy. I mean, people say it's not. They say it's
Sure.
taxing and it's a lot of work and you got to raise a lot of money. But I know this from experience now, just in my couple of years inside state government. Governing is hard. Governing takes a different muscle. It takes a will. It takes a willingness to say no, sometimes even to people who got you there. It takes it just takes a muscle that's a little bit different than campaigning, and it takes time. So I'm looking for, I think, that energy that governing, particularly in this day and age, calls for, both at the state, well, national level, but certainly at the state level and absolutely at the local level. And I would like to see us just try a couple of things that, that look a little bit different than what we've tried for the past 10, 15, 20 years, because I walk to City Hall sometimes and I walk past a lot of what, is a challenge. And I just feel like
Sure.
we can do better as a region and we can do better as a city. And I'm willing to give somebody younger than me with a lot more energy than me, but certainly who's smarter than me, a shot at doing it a different way.
Gotcha. I
So that's my
appreciate that.
hope, is
We
that
are
that's the case. But even if it's not, no matter what happens there, I think
sure.
there are a lot of people who've already spoken so far and what we've seen in the count who are acknowledging that we got to do things a little bit differently.
Yeah. Gotcha. All right. Well, Cassandra, I really appreciate you jumping in with us. I think your wisdom is greatly appreciated and your insights are really valued. So thank you so much. I appreciate and sorry to pull you away from the from the TV to get you to spend
You
but
know
you
what
probably
I'm
need a
doing.
little bit of a break. You need a little bit of a
Well,
break.
thank you for having me. Good luck to and I'm really proud, this, I'm really proud of what you've pulled together tonight and certainly what the Observer's been able to accomplish this year. And I'm proud, and I know my friend Dr. Lee and Mrs. Lee are watching proudly too. So
Oh,
good luck
stop. Don't be
to
trying to
them.
get me to cry up here now. The show's almost
No, I
over.
will too. I will too. Anyway,
All
hang
right.
in there and
Thanks
have
so
fun.
much, Cassandra
All right.
Pye,
I'll keep watching.
for joining us as well too. Have a
Okay.
good
Take
evening.
care. Bye.
All right. Okay. And now he gives you the headphones when the interview's over. All right. We'll disconnect from Cassandra, let her go about her. And then did we ever get any resolution with Dr. Flo?
No updates.
No updates. All right. Okay. Well, Chris,
Word salad?
say again.
You guys want to talk about the word salad drill?
What is the word salad?
April's thing.
Oh, yeah. Oh, you know what? Yeah, throw that up there. I forgot we had that. Chris, this is kind of cool. This is so, the Observer is part of a collaboration called Word in Black, which is the collaboration of 9 other African-American newsrooms where we share content and launched Word in Black, the news.
I think I heard about
you have,
this.
of course you have. Yeah. Because you've been interviewed by, we have our own staff. And earlier this year, we did the debate night event, right?
That was dope, by the way. That was dope.
Yeah, that was so that, and the Observer did all the production for that, which is why we're sitting here doing this as well too. So, again, very, very fortunate to have a great team. This here, as you can see on the screen there, is we did when we did that that event, one of the questions when registering, we asked folks to share with us what they thought were the key election concerns. Now, this is, to be honest, I mean, you could say what you want to about, polls and all those things that are out there, but this is Black voters nationally.
Right on. Okay. Wow.
Black engaged voters nationally, right? And we're looking at some of the things, because, there's been a lot of conversation about what the most important issues of this election are, right? And that narrative has been really driven by mainstream media. They talk immigration, they talk the economy, those types of things, right? And if you look at this is Black African Americans who were paying attention to our event. And this shows what some of the things that were really important to them. So you can see education, economy, voting rights, that's together, voting rights, gun control, immigration is there, healthcare, health security, reparations. I'm coming to reparations. I'm coming back to reparations, right?
Word is up there.
And so I think here's what is significant to me. You sit here and you look at this, and these are the things that this is about 1,000 people that we polled and gave us their feedback. And this is politically engaged African Americans.
Wow.
If you think about this and you think about that initial presidential debate, almost none of these issues came up.
Almost none.
Almost none of them came up with the exception of immigration.
And economy-ish.
Exactly. But affordable housing, health security, healthcare, reparations, there was no mention of education at all.
Yeah, that's crazy.
And so this is the thing that when we talk about, and Cassandra brought it up a little bit, we've talked about it here a little bit, about how folks might be sitting out of the election process because their voice isn't heard, right? And because their issues aren't being brought up.
What's in it for me?
Exactly. And so I think it's really important that we take a minute to kind of digest this and really understand that there are, like I said, we can be a voting bloc because these issues resonate with us. When I sit here and I listen to, the presidential debates or the discussions at the national level related to quote unquote the issues that people are concerned about, they don't resonate with me.
They don't.
And they don't resonate with my readers. They don't resonate with my community, right? And so I think, moving forward, we need to be more strategic. I'm with you 1,000% more strategic about making sure that our issues are accounted for and spoken for as we move forward. And whether you're at the local level, state level, national level, wherever you might be, you've got to kind of answer to us. And,
You do. And I'm please leave that up because that is a fascinating. So you see, with the exception of the economy, and you could say immigration too, as you mentioned, nothing else that we say we care about, which is reflected on the screen right now, nothing else that we say we care about was actually being talked about at the debate. There haven't been big topics in the campaign and campaigning that I've seen. And the things that they do talk about are actually, so for example, you see, reproductive there, which has been a big, campaign issue nationally for the Democratic Party.
But it's not necessarily.
But for us, it's not.
It's not very big with us.
It may make the top 10, but it's like 10, 11 maybe.
Sure.
And then also, so obviously, reparations. That goes without saying. That has to be up there. But also, what you don't see up there is threat to democracy. Right. Democracy is under attack. Like you don't, but that's the other number one issue that the Democratic Party have been bringing up over the past year or so, and that's clearly here from what your viewers say and from what the people have been saying. That's not what is at the top of people's mind. What's on top of people's minds is the kitchen table things that they got to deal with every day, like the education that their kids are getting, healthcare, gun rights, right? Or, public safety, guns, crime, the economy, obviously. And people have been talking about housing, rent. and people have been talking about reparations.
Yeah.
And the word and the topic of reparations is coming up more in Black circles and Black communities. And it will be wise, I think, for every party to pay attention to that, because this is what's going to get you more of the Black support.
Sure. Gotcha. Well, I appreciate that. Thank you, Mark, for reminding me to pull that up, because I definitely want to make sure that that stays up for us to kind of digest. Do we have any more people? Because now we're gone past 10. It's like is Christine is still in the house. Christine, do we have any updated results yet? They said 10 o'clock, but technology sometimes works for us and sometimes works against us. We'll do one last check-in with Christine before we sign off. There she is.
There I am. Here, we figured it out. I was hoping for early results, but I haven't seen anything. The next drop is supposed to be at 10:15 for Sacramento County. And this is what we have right now for the mayoral race, same as it was earlier. I believe I was checking for viewers at home who aren't watching anywhere else, and we still have no results from Nevada. They have not reported anything at all yet. So we are definitely looking at going to bed before we know.
Right. Some folks have already gone to bed, no doubt.
And some people have already gone to bed. And if you have, make sure you deep breathe tonight, because we're not going to know anything until tomorrow.
That's right.
Not more until tomorrow.
I do see, it looks like there are some numbers for West Sac mayor's race on our site, which we didn't have before. And I can see that might be why there was a tone of a little somberness with Dante. She's down by about 1,800 votes right now to Martha Guerrero for the West Sac mayoral's race. But like you said, it's still very early. And votes are still getting counted. Of course, West Sac is in Yolo County. It's not in Sacramento County. So it's going to kind of go on its own little schedule. I should have said little. I apologize. Please don't let me editorialize West Sacramento, Yolo County. Yolo County is extremely important. There are tens of thousands of people that are going to be voting in that race. So we love you, Yolo County. We love you, West Sacramento, and go A's, or whatever we're calling them.
Trump just won Georgia.
Oh, they're calling Georgia? AP is calling Georgia for Trump? Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
We've already called Georgia. Our decision desk already called Georgia. And you can see
our
that
decision
based
desk
on
had
our
already.
numbers right here.
Yeah. Oh, it's Georgia was already included into our count. So
Georgia has already
as of right
called,
now, Trump at 251 and Harris at 213. So and right now, for what is this? Would it be the second time in, I think, the last 8 or 9 elections that right now it looks like a Republican might win the popular vote? Because that hasn't happened since Bush second term. Democrats have won the popular vote.
Since Lincoln.
Not since Lincoln, Mark.
Now, so you need 270 to win. He got 251. That means, so what? He need another 29 votes or something, or 19?
No, 19
electoral.
votes.
So that means if he win Pennsylvania, because I got 19 in it, right?
I think Pennsylvania is 19. Yeah.
That means it's over.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, we all know Pennsylvania's the same.
But Pennsylvania's going to take a minute. Yeah.
Okay.
There's still a lot of votes to count, but yes, it's early-ish. We like to use the words "ish" around here sometimes because some of the stuff is ish. We're in the news business, and news changes for sure. But we will continue to pay attention to that.
One thing I'm going to be looking at, just real quick, if I can say one thing real quick. One thing I'm going to be looking for is the turnout among Black voters, and especially these 7 battleground states that we have been following over the past year or so very, very closely. But I'm going to be looking very closely at the Black turnout and how the vote broke down. Whether we saw or have seen any decrease or increase in support among Black folks for Vice President Harris or for Donald Trump. So that's something we're looking at and looking forward to seeing very, very closely as we get numbers in. Of course, it probably won't be tonight, but tomorrow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Over the next few days, we'll see. I think just talking to Cassandra, she was saying that she was talking to folks in Philadelphia who were saying that it sounded like, particularly the Black male vote, the turnout was either low and or skewed toward Trump in Philadelphia. And, so we'll see. And I know, we talked, I was asking Cassandra about, strategy, not only messaging, but, I'll be honest, I follow and pay attention to the work being done by the Atlanta Voice, the Black newspaper in Atlanta.
Yeah.
And, the Harris campaign was in Atlanta a lot.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of Georgia that didn't necessarily get the attention of the Harris campaign.
Wow.
Which is a concern. Now, you can make the case that, you're at some point you're trying to do turnout, trying to make sure that you get the turnout that you need. And in Atlanta, you have more of an opportunity. You have more of a ceiling than you do in the rest of the state. But
that does say something. One, because you would think that in Atlanta you have a typically Democratic voting place, so it may just been let's try to get our numbers up and turn out. It did feel to me like in the last, and specifically after the Barack Obama controversy in the past 3 weeks, where Barack Obama, and he actually, people focus a lot on his comments about the brothers, not wanting to support Kamala because she's a woman. But think about what he said before that, which was similar to what you just said. We have not seen the turnout, or the turnout has been softer in certain places. And he said it looks like it's particularly pronounced among the brothers.
Right.
So, again, I do want to see what the ultimate numbers are, but that's going to be very, very interesting. And I think that's going to send a message either way to candidates and in elections to come about what we do to get Black men behind you in a strong way. I think the Harris campaign, as we saw, they put out a Black man plan.
Absolutely.
About a week after that, clearly was a response to some of the, political hemorrhaging that was going on after those comments by the former president. And I also think that, brothers, and I was talking to brothers online and in the streets, we read the plan, and it was not a Black man plan. It was a plan that identified
include others.
Yes, it said and others.
But we can't do. You can't say Black. I mean, it's you just can't. It's just you're not gonna get. I mean, look, we can go on and on about that.
We have a whole show about that.
We can have a whole show about that. But I mean, let's be real. I mean, and you do have to be, as you're in California, so you can't even do anything race-based in California without being very, creative.
I know that.
And so,
I know that very well. Very well.
So. I hear. I'm not gonna beat you over the head over that at all, because I obviously know what folks are saying as well too. But yeah. So I think again, that's back to my point where I said, we hold the bar high for one, and we don't ask nothing of the other dude. But that's okay. We are where we're at, so it's all good. Christine, you logged off. I'm sorry. We're saying bye to you, Christine, as well too. Let's thank Christine for her work as well too. Thank you, Christine. Did a great job.
Fantastic.
Yeah, I'm about to give out all my shout outs. I'm about to Mark is over here. Now I know how these shows work, where there's always like somebody there and then there's always somebody talking to them. And I'm always like, who are you talking to off on the side? Well, the person I'm talking to off on the side is Mark Freeman. So who, again, Mark has been doing an amazing job making the screens move. Yeah, getting everybody in and out of here. So it's been great. Want to thank my guest, Chris Logston, for
pleasure,
joining us. Thanks for hanging out, man. This was fun.
Man.
We have to do this again.
Super Bowl, you know what I'm saying? Politics, man. Yeah, I wouldn't want to be nowhere else right now.
I appreciate it. I really do appreciate it. So yeah, this has been good. Folks, we want to thank you all for joining us. I know we've gone past time, so I apologize for that. Hopefully the engagement was great, both in our stream and online. Hopefully, more than anything, that we can continue to urge people to be politically active. Cassandra brought up an amazing point. We are tax-paying citizens. As Black people, we have more rights to this country treating us in a way that is equitable more than anybody else on this planet. And so I think our involvement in the political process is critical. And oftentimes it does start local. And so you need to know who's on your city council. You need to know who's on your water board. You need to know who's on your SMUD board. You need to know who's going to be in the mayor's race or who's lined up for that. I think we are hoping to really try and raise that level of engagement. And you will see that through the website as you continue to see the Observer evolve. So continue, again, either sign up for our newsletter, which is free. 5 days a week, you get that newsletter in your inbox. Subscribe to the newspaper. You can get that delivered to your home once a week, or support us with a financial contribution, non-tax deductible contribution, but you can support the work that we're doing. Yes, don't miss an issue. Absolutely. And those are just some of the political covers that we did. But, you know, the Observer we don't just do political coverage. It's not always politics. We look at all the joys and the excitements of our community in ways that no one else does. So continue to support our work. So we thank you for that. Definitely want to thank our team. There are so many people involved with making this show happen, even as it was, with some of the technical difficulties, some of the people that you didn't see on screen, Louis Bryant III, Roberta Alvarez, Maddie Church, some of those people you won't necessarily see on screen, but they help make this work. And of course, all of our team here in the studio, Mark Freeman, Christine Shelby, Craig DeLuz, thank you all for making it happen. And then, to be honest, we were fed. We were fed nicely by Buffalo Pizza. So thank you for everyone over there for helping to support us and support our bellies on this long election night. With that, we're 16 minutes over time. So with that, we will sign off. Chris,
Hold on, man. Can I give you? You forgot somebody, man.
Who's that?
You forgot yourself. All right? You forgot you, man. You did a fantastic job.
Thank you, Chris.
Amazing.
Appreciate that.
Thank you for holding it down, man. And yes, sir.
I appreciate that.
Got it.
I appreciate that. We're standing on amazing shoulders and just trying to continue to build on the legacy. So thank you all for joining us, and have a good night and continue to pay attention to what we're doing. Thanks so much.
The reason the world saw what she saw was because of another hero in this story, the black press. That's a fact. Another black radio and newspapers were unflinching and brave in making sure America saw what she saw.
Allow me to reintroduce myself.